Hi, I'm Angela, and today I'll be presenting to you a chair yoga class. Um, this would be a great class for seniors and for anyone recovering from an injury or an illness, or if you're just having a day where you're taking it a little bit more easy or you're in an active recovery mode. It's something that you can do and still provide mobility, flexibility, and some strength. So you might want to have with you a block, and I like to use the block when I'm sitting in the chair sometimes. It just lifts my feet so I don't have as much pressure on my hips. Now that's a personal choice. I'm actually going to teach the class without the block just because for me it's easier to move around. But if you want to have the block there for that little bit of lift, feel free to put that there. If you don't have a block, a rolled up blanket or a couple of rolled up blankets or towels will also suffice. You might also want a strap. Now if you don't have a yoga strap, you can use a tie or a belt from a robe or anything that gives you length that you can hold on to. If it is a belt, I don't recommend a leather one just because they're a little bit stiff and not as giving. So I like to have those props handy. I'm going to show you how to use them during this class, and hopefully you have some fun and enjoy. So let's just find ourselves in our chair. We're going to do most of this class either sitting in the chair or using the chair as a prop. I will also show you a few things to use the wall for. The wall is a great prop, especially if we need just that little bit of support or if we're taking it easy that day. So seated on the chair, and we want to sit up nice and tall. And you don't necessarily want your entire back resting on the back of the chair because you want to be nice and erect, as if there's a string pulling you up right from the crown of your head. And either placing hands on your thighs or just for a moment bringing palms to heart center, let's just find our breath. And maybe we close our eyes, up to you. And let's just start to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose if we can. And don't get hung up on that, just please keep breathing. So a nice big inhale. Try to feel the belly expand and then the ribs expand as we take in that breath, and then let it all go. Let's do that a few times. Nice slow inhale. And then exhale. Again, inhales, 1, 2, 3 perhaps, and then exhale maybe for 5 or 6. Let's do that again, and this time, let's just release the hands if they're together and just let everything kind of release as we exhale. That felt so good. Let's do that one more time. Inhale. And exhale. Good, so let's start to add movement with that breath. We're just gonna start with arm movement. Inhale, bring the arms up. Exhale, float them back down. If it doesn't feel good bringing them all the way up, then just bring them as far as feels good. So if we are taking care of shoulders today, maybe we only lift just a little bit and then push the air down, kind of like wings and we're flying. Otherwise, we listen to our body and we just move with the breath. And basically, we're just doing this to start to warm the body up and to also learn to use our breath as we move. So a lot of times when we add movement, we tend to hold our breath. And what I really want you to focus on is using the breath to help you. Doesn't matter, don't get hung up when you inhale or exhale. I'll cue it sometimes, but as long as you're just breathing and not holding the breath, that's the important thing. So let's finish out one more of those if we can. And then again, bring the hands to our lap or to the sides of our chair. And just scooching ourselves a little bit forward just so we're not resting completely on the back. And again, we're sitting up nice and tall. We have our core actively engaged. And what that feels like is that we just have our belly tightening a little bit like we've done up a pair of tight pants. I call it doing up a zipper. So basically what that does, it's not a sucking in or a drawing in, it's just a gentle squeeze of those abdominal muscles to support our spine and our whole core, all right? And then with our feet either on our block or on the floor, we're just gonna start to pick one leg up and lower it down. Pick the other leg up and lower it down. So just work through side to side and go at your own pace. So you don't have to follow me. And maybe what you do is inhale up, exhale down. Up to you. Maybe you do a full inhale as you lift and lower, and then an exhale as you lift and lower. Make it your own, just listen to your body and start to become aware of how your body is moving. again, if we can, just one more time on each side, finding that extension in the legs, and then pausing. So all we're gonna do is pick up one leg, doesn't matter which, and if you wanna hold the leg underneath, feel free. We're just gonna roll through the ankle a little bit. So we can make it some small little circles going both directions. We can point and flex the foot. We can spread the toes wide and maybe bend the toes a little bit. So just starting to warm up that joint. And then placing that foot down, changing sides. So we lift the other side, and again, we can make some circles. We can point and flex. We can spread the toes. We can bend the toes. Like I'm waving at you with my toes. Good, and then place that foot down. So if you want to scooch back, feel free, otherwise you can stay right where you are. Hands on your thighs, on the side of the chair, and just starting to warm up the shoulders a little bit, so some shoulder rolls. So we're just drawing down and back, and just making some circles, using that shoulder joint. And not forcing it, just allowing the shoulder blades to glide down the back, and then pick back up as we lift the shoulders up, and then set them back down. And then with your next exhale, let the shoulders just glide down the back. Again, not forcing, just kind of where they should always be. Good, take a breath here. And then just a little bit of movement in the neck. So on your next exhale, we're just gonna turn the head to one side like we're looking over that shoulder to talk to somebody. Inhale, come back to center. Exhale, change sides. So just flowing that. Inhaling, we always come back to center. Exhaling to move. Inhaling back to center. Exhaling to move. And if that doesn't feel right in your natural flow of breath, you can switch it. Or maybe a full inhale on one side and then the exhale on the other side. Listen to your breath in your body. Let's do one more of those to each side. And then come back to the center. So this time tilting the head so that the ear comes towards the shoulder, keeping both shoulders down. Inhale back to center. Exhale, tilt. Now if you have a tendency to start to want to lift that shoulder up, I just over-exaggerated it a little bit. Maybe we keep the arms on the chair a little bit to prevent us from doing that. And what you'll get is you'll start to get a nice stretch down the side of the neck and a little bit in the muscle that connects our shoulder to our neck. Whereas where we often hold a lot of tightness, a lot of stress there. Good, one more to each side. And then come back to the center. And just pause. So again, if you scooch back in your chair, just making sure you're a little closer to the edge now. And we're sitting up nice and tall. Hands can be by our side again. They can be on our lap. And just extend one leg and then just hold. And then switch. So we release down and change sides. So we hold and maybe 2 or 3 counts. And then just alternating side to side. And if you're feeling like that's enough, just keep going with that. If you want to add a little more, it can make it a little tricky. We call it a little bit of brain gym, but also engage more of our core. You send the opposite arm up. So you start to flow, reaching up with the opposite arms like your fingers are trying to reach the ceiling. And we have that gentle feeling of a zipper being drawn up to support ourselves. And if it doesn't feel good raising the arm all the way up, then maybe we just come up to what I call like a Frankenstein arm. Just moving and breathing. Your own pace, you don't have to be doing it same time I am. Working a little bit of coordination if we're lifting both arm and leg. Wherever we are in that, let's just finish out one more to each side. And just come back to center, back to stillness. And then just pause, take a breath there. Now we should be feeling like we're starting to get a little bit warm. So we're gonna start to use these big muscles in our legs a little bit. So I like to walk my feet out a little bit and just take them a little bit wider. And we're gonna come as if we're gonna stand up. So it's going to be a little bit of our chair pose. So depending on how we're feeling today, we can take the hands to the chair and then just go as if we're about to lift up, but we don't come off the chair, and then just sit back down. But maybe I like to use my hands to help me push just a little bit and sit back down. So I push just a little bit to come off that chair, and this is where it's really important because we're tipping forward from the hips to have that zipper done up tight. Now, if we're feeling like we want to do a little bit more, maybe we lift a little bit higher, the hands come off the chair, and then the hands find the chair as we come back down. Even more, we can send the arms out a little bit. Maybe the arms come up. Maybe we even have the hands just at heart center as we lift and lower. Now, you do this enough times, whew, you've done a whole bunch of squats is what you've done. So just finishing out 1, 2, maybe 3 more, just depending on how you feel. And then again, just pause. So just find that breath again. Draw shoulders down. Good. Now, this is where if you have that strap, I recommend that you grab it. And as you do this class more and more, maybe you have the strap hanging over the back of your chair so it's easily accessible, or on a table beside you just so it's more easily accessible. So we want to take approximately the middle of that strap, and we just want to bring it around the bottom of one of our feet. And you want to make sure it's not right in the middle of the arch because we have lots of nerve endings in our feet. So you want to have it a little bit higher up by the balls of your feet. And they're just going to send that leg out. So just like we were lifting and lowering, by having the strap here, we sit up nice and tall, we pull the leg up a little bit. We want to make sure we're not locking the knee. So there's a tiny, we call it a micro bend in that knee. And then we're stretching that leg out. So we're not using the big muscles as much to hold it up so we don't get tired. It allows us to stretch the back of the leg a little bit more by having the strap here. So in my opinion, it doesn't make it easier. It actually makes it more effective, and we stretch where we're supposed to stretch. Good, and we want to make sure we don't have a death grip on that strap. We just want enough of a grip that the foot's not going to fall out of the strap. There's just a little bit of tension there to hold that foot up. So let's finish a breath. And then just gently lower back down, and you're going to change feet. Good, so again, just making sure that strap's not in the middle of your arch, it's a little bit higher up. And again, making sure you have just that micro bend in the knee. So we want to make sure that we're not locking that knee joint. Draw your shoulders down, sit up, your tallest self. And then just breathe. So you're going to start to feel a little bit of a pull in the back of the leg, and those are the muscles stretching. Good. And the higher we lift that leg, so we don't want to go any higher than the ankle above our hip, but the higher we lift that leg, the more we can get that stretch. So if we're keeping the leg a little bit low, you're not going to feel as much of a stretch. When we start to lift it a little bit, you'll feel a little more stretch. Good. And just one more breath here. All right, let's lower that down, put the strap off to the side, and then we're going to come to some of our warrior stances. So I'm just moving my block out of the way here. So in our warrior seated on the chair, it gives us a little more support, but it still allows us to strengthen and stretch our legs. So what you want to do is turn yourself so that you find the corner of the chair. And then the leg that's facing the outside of the chair is going to point to that wall that's on that side. And then the other leg is just going to stretch out as long as you can get it. And we want the pinky edge of that foot on the floor. So you're going to start to feel stretch. Inner thigh a little bit, wherever you feel it. And it's different for everybody. It depends on where we have tightness. And then I just want you to kind of turn your shoulders. So it's almost as if we're twisting a little bit. And hands can just rest on the thighs here, or we can lift them up. And then just breathe here. Now, as we get used to doing this, you're never stuck where you've landed in a position. So you can change maybe. So maybe we want to take the legs a little bit wider and that foot out a little bit further, okay? Maybe we want to come a little closer to the edge of our seat. Maybe we want to just keep palms at heart center or tucked onto our legs. Now think a moment about your feet and really press both of them down. If you start to press both feet down into the floor, you're going to start to feel the muscles in your legs activate a little bit more. And you're going to feel a little bit of work in some of the muscles in the legs, and you're going to feel a little bit of stretch. Our warrior poses are a balance between strength and stretch. It's so beautiful about them. Good, so with the legs like this, all we're going to do is reach towards this knee, that bent leg, and then place that arm, kind of like we're serving cookies, and then just tip a little bit. So we're starting to get some stretch between the ribs and our side. Now this arm can stay down. We can bring it to the low back, which is going to stretch a little bit of the shoulder, or we can lift it up to the ceiling. So just whatever feels good to your shoulder joint today. And then just breathe here. So as we breathe, think about that space you're creating between your ribs. Now what we're doing is we're opening up the side body. So we're opening up the lymphatic system a little bit. And that's a good thing. I don't like to get into the science too much behind stuff when I'm teaching my classes, because most people are just like, I don't have time for that right now, which they should take the time for it, but perhaps we'll talk about it one day in a different class. Good, now push yourself back up. And then all we're going to do is bring ourselves around, change sides. So we're going to find the corner of the chair on the other side, our leg out to the side, and then take this leg out. So the pinky edge of that foot down. And then we're just going to turn the shoulders a little bit more towards as if we were sitting in that chair. Good, and then if we like, arms out. Breathe. Now I like to get a little bit wider, so I sit a little closer to the edge of my chair so I can really stretch that back leg. It's going to depend on how that feels for you. Okay? Same thing with the arms. Arms can be up, starts to challenge our shoulder joint after a while, so maybe we bring the arms down or tuck them into our heart center. And then start to think about your feet. So start to press. Remember, our feet are like the foundation of our house. They hold us up, right? So we want a nice supporting foundation. We have the chair, but we also have our feet. They're connected to the ground. So start to press in through the feet, and you'll start to feel some more muscles activate in those legs, as well as perhaps stretch. Breathe, don't forget to breathe. Good, and then we're gonna reach for that knee. We're gonna bring the arm down again like we're serving a platter. Arm can be up, it can be on the low back, or it can just stay on our hip or our leg. And then just breathing here. So again, creating that lovely space between our ribs, opening up our side body. And your head is just wherever it's comfortable. So maybe we're just looking forward, maybe we're looking down slightly. When we start to look up, it starts to challenge our balance a little bit more. Just a little bit, especially because we're on the chair. Good. All right, let's use that hand to push ourselves back up and come back to the chair. Now, I'm going to give you the option to do that again on each side, sitting on the chair, or this time to come off the chair and use the chair for some stability as we stand and do that. So in a standing warrior, that knee that was facing the side wall is bent, and then the other foot is just back a little bit at about 90 degrees. And we just want to make sure that the knee is never pushing past the toe line. So if your foot is looking like this and it feels like you're getting a big stretch in the back of your heel there and your heel's starting to want to lift, that means you're pushing your knee too far forward. So you just need to bring that foot out, so you need to step out a little bit further, and we can hold onto the chair. And what we want to do is start to strengthen this leg and start to stretch. Remember, there's that balance there. And then think about your feet and press down on them. So then we just have the shoulders turned. We can hold onto the chair, or we can bring both arms out, or just one arm out. Up to you. And if you don't want to use the chair, you can even have the wall in front of you where my chair would be, and you can have the hand on the wall or like a light finger touch on the wall. So up to you. Lots of options. Good, and then just breathe here. So nice strong feet. We're feeling the muscles in those legs. Good, and then we're just gonna lean forward a little bit. So you can maybe slide past the chair and hold onto the back with your whole hand and reach up. Remember, if you're seated in the chair, your arm can be resting on your leg. You can also have your hand on your leg here, or your forearm on your leg. So you adjust according to you. Let's take one more breath. Those legs are getting shaky. And then push ourselves up. Good. Use the chair if you need to. So you're going to change sides. So because in the video my back will be to you, I'm going to actually move my chair. Please don't move your chair. You can just turn around and listen to my voice because you already know what we're doing. Okay, so and if you're seated on the chair, remember you're just turning to the other corner. So same thing. The knee that was pointed towards the wall points towards the wall. The toes point that way too. We want to make sure the knee is over top of the ankle. Back leg's out a little bit, 45-ish degrees. Whatever's comfortable to you. Remember, you're never stuck. You can always move around. And we want to start to bend this knee, so we're starting to work that leg. And again, we can have one arm in the chair. We want to turn those shoulders just a little bit so they're over top of our hips. One arm can be back. Both arms can be back. We can have them at heart center. We can have them resting on our legs. And then start to check in with those feet. So we're pressing down on the feet. Good, keep breathing. And if you need to take breaks, remember if you can't hold it this long, take breaks, or if you need to pull back in that leg a little bit and then come back in, feel free. So we work to our own body, what our own body is telling us. It'll tell you. Good, and then we lean forward. So maybe the forearm rests on the chair and the arm comes up. Maybe the hand rests on the leg. Maybe the forearm rests on the leg. And maybe we get to a different place on each side. Totally okay. What we want to think about is opening up these ribs here, creating some space, strengthening the legs. Starting to get a little bit shaky here. Good, and then just push ourselves back up. And we're just going to step in a little bit. So we're facing the chair, all right? We can also be facing, I know my back is to you, facing a wall, we can use a wall. And if we're staying seated in our chair, all right? So all we're going to do if we're staying seated in our chair is scooch to the edge of the chair, okay? So I'm going to do seated on the chair first. I'll talk you through all 3 ways to do it. So if we're seated in the chair, we want to lift up, we want to do that zipper up, and we're just going to start to fold forward. So you're going to start to feel a little bit of stretch in the back. Okay, so then hands are just resting. And if you're seated and you have a table or another chair in front of you, you can reach for that too. Okay, so what we're trying to do is create stretch in the arms and in the back a little bit. Same thing with our chair. We're starting to walk our feet backwards. So we're holding onto the back of the chair. And we're starting to walk our feet backwards until we start to feel stretch through the shoulders, through the back, through the arms, and you adjust how much stretch you want. So maybe we get it to this place where our back is a little bit flatter. And if it gets to be too much, if we're standing, just walk the feet in again. If we're seated, just sit back up a little taller. Now, obviously, if we're using the wall, it's the same concept as the chair. We walk the feet back until we get that stretch in the back. Feet hip distance, maybe even a tiny bit wider. 1 or 2 more breaths wherever you've ended up, just getting that nice stretch in the back. Good, and then just start to make your way back up. Okay, now if you're staying in the chair, I'm just going to invite you to come back to that exercise we did at the beginning where we lifted opposite arm and leg, okay? So what that does is engages our core, gives us just a little bit of balance training. If we're standing, we're going to use the chair or the wall for a little bit of support, and we're going to balance. So we're going to come to what's called just a knee lift. It's a basic everyday move that we do. So just a light touch, maybe a little bit of a grip if we want that stability. Adjust how far away your hip is from the chair. Other hand can be where we like. It can be hanging by our side, on our hip. And we're just going to start to lift the other leg up. So we can have a little bit of touch to the floor, to the ground at all times. And then we start to lift it up so we get the knee no higher than that hip. And that's all we're doing. And then breathe. Good, so if we are standing and we feel like we're up for it, okay, be very careful. Maybe we just take the hand off the chair, but we're right there ready to grab it. Maybe we take it all the way up. breathe. Okay, I'm just gonna hold on to that chair today for that little extra support, just a light touch. And then release down. So if you like, you can turn around. Just because my back's gonna be to you, I'm not gonna turn around. But you wanna make sure you set yourself up for side 2. Okay, and if you're sitting in the chair and you're doing that lift and lower, take breaks whenever you need to, come back to it. And then lift the other leg whenever you're ready. Good, and same thing, maybe we keep that light touch, maybe arm lifts. So this is where it's important to have that sensation of doing up your zipper, whichever option you're doing, seated or standing, because that really helps to support our spine and our core and helps with our balance. Good, let's lower down. So we're gonna come back to either folding over if we're seated in the chair or starting to use the chair, the back of the chair to walk back and get that nice stretch. Breathe here. Feet about hip distance, maybe a tiny bit wider for support. Making sure the elbows and the knees aren't locked. Good, one more breath if you can here. And then we're gonna start to walk ourselves back up to that chair. And we're all gonna come to be seated in that chair again. Good, and you might want that strap again as we get going. So you might just wanna make sure that it's close to you again. And just scooching to the edge of our chair, we're gonna do a little bit of opening up of the chest. So we spend so much time in our lives sitting with our shoulders rolled open, whether we're reading or watching TV or driving or typing or working, whatever we do. Now it's smartphones, right? So we want to start to open these muscles up so we maintain that nice posture and it keeps everything open where we breathe so we can take those nice deep breaths. So hands coming to either the back sides of the chair or maybe the edge of the chair, whatever feels good to you. And maybe you need to scooch forward a little bit more. You want the feet, again, about hip distance for that stability. And maybe just holding onto the sides or edges of the chair is enough for you. If you want a little more sensation, we just start to lean forward a little bit till we feel that pull. And then we breathe into that space. And as we breathe, maybe we're able to get a little bit further if we're leaning forward, making sure we're holding onto the chair enough that we're not going to fall. Good, let's come back. So again, seated up nice and tall, hands come to our lap, draw shoulders down. Inhale, try to create a little more space, and then exhale, we're just going to turn to one side. So your hands can just come to the outside of your leg, and we just look to the side. Now this is where we need to remember to breathe, because when we twist, we have a tendency to hold our breath. It's a little more challenging sometimes, and we might feel it squish in those places where we breathe. So just breathe through it, and then as we exhale, maybe we're able to turn just a little bit further, and maybe then we can turn the head as we're looking over our shoulder a little bit. So listen to your neck. And then let's take one more breath here. On an inhale, we come back to center. Exhale, reset. Inhale, lift up nice and tall. Exhale, we just turn to the other side. So never forcing it and easing into it. So again, we use that breath. Remember I said first we look to the side, and then maybe as we breathe into it, we start to look more over the shoulder towards the back corner of the room. Good, one more breath here. And then inhaling back to center, exhale, reset. So we're gonna hold the edge of our chair with one hand. We're gonna lift up and reach for the ceiling with the other hand. So again, we're creating that space between our ribs. And then we just start to tip. So this elbow might bend a little bit, accommodating us, keeping that shoulder down and just opening up. So we wanna make sure that both hips, both butt cheeks stay on the floor, and we're just creating that space. Now you go as far as is comfortable. So maybe just seated nice and tall is enough for you. And if it doesn't feel good having the arm up, maybe the shoulder feels a little cranky, then we just keep the arm down or even pointing towards the floor, but we create that space and we start to tip. And then come back, we just change sides. So holding the chair on the other side, we lift up first, create that space first, and then we just start to open up a little bit. And as we breathe, maybe we open up just a little bit more. So again, we listen to our body. Good, come back up. Let's change sides again. So lifting first. Exhale, then we tip, create some space. Take a breath or two here. See if you feel a little more open than the last time we were here. Maybe yes, maybe no. Depends on the day, depends on how we feel. Come back up, change sides, lift first, and then exhale, tip. Okay, so we've opened up our sides a little bit more. Let's try that twist and see if it feels a little different. So hands on our thighs, inhale, create space, and then exhale, just bring the hands to the side of one thigh, looking to the side of the room to start. And then as we exhale, maybe we start to turn the head a little bit more, maybe we turn the body a little bit more, and just see if you get to a different place than last time. Again, maybe yes, maybe no. Good, let's use our next inhale to come back to center. Exhale to reset the body. Inhale to lift up nice and tall. Exhale, we twist to the other side. Remember, taking it slow. Maybe using the exhale just to deepen just a little bit. So remember when I talk about a little bit, a millimeter, think about how small that is. I grew up a metric girl. So that's still movement though, right? Like it's just a smidge, like a little bit wider than a piece of paper. Let's come back to center. Reset. So this is where you can grab that strap if you want to. So I'm going to show you first. We'll all do it together without the strap, and then we'll add the strap if you like. Okay. So I'm going to give you a few options. We already did that stretch for our chest where you held onto the back of the chair, and that's where you can stay. You can stay there the whole time if you like. Okay. Otherwise, we're going to lift our arms up and breathe. And if we don't like them all the way up, maybe we lift them a little bit up. Maybe there's in front. I like to call those our Frankenstein arms again. Good. And then release. Okay, so again, you can always go back to this with the chair, but I wanted to show you that first to show you that we can use the strap. Now you want to make sure it's not going to smack you in the face. Your hands are just a little bit wider than your legs, kind of outside your hips. And we're just going to take the arms up. So again, we have them here kind of where they'd be Frankenstein arms, and there's a tiny bit of tension in that strap. And maybe we stay here. Maybe we get up a little bit higher. Maybe we get up a little bit higher. This is where we listen to the body. Okay, and that's as far as we go. Breathe. So know that if you are up here with that strap and it's starting to feel uncomfortable, first of all, you can lower the arms back down again, or you can release the strap completely and just bring your arms to the sides of the chair. Good, breathe. Good, let's lower the arms all the way down. Okay, so we already did that stretch where we held onto the chair, we lifted up and we tipped. I'm going to give you the option to do that exact same thing again, or this time have both arms up with or without the strap. Okay, so both arms up without or with, your choice. So if we have the strap, again, about hip distance apart, nice and tall, slightly in front of us. We don't want them back here hurting the shoulder joint, just slightly in front of us. And again, we want to create that space and then just gently start to tip. So it doesn't have to be far, we're just opening up our side. Breathing here. This is one of those ones, especially if you have both arms up, it can be a little bit challenging and we tend to hold our breath. So we want to make sure we're breathing here. Good, inhale back to center. Exhale, reset, bring the arms down if you need to. And then whenever you're ready, arms can come back up and we tip to the other side. Breathe here. back to center. Let's lower everything down. Let's get rid of that strap and put it off to the side. Good job. So still sitting kind of at the edge of our chair. Let's just take that nice big inhale, do our zipper up, and then just start to fold over our legs. So maybe we stay up nice and tall. Maybe we start to rest on our thighs. And here, if you want the feet a little bit closer to give you that support, feel free. And we can just rest, and we can have our hands resting on our legs. We can have the arms just hanging down. We can release the head a little bit here. If we had the block for our feet, we can even rest our hands on that block. And then start to walk the hands back up your legs. Come all the way up. Let the shoulders come down. Good. Inhale, let's bring arms up. Exhale, bring them back down. So back to where we started. Remember, maybe you only go up part way, kind of like you're flying. Maybe we bring them up all the way. So just notice if this feels any different than when we first started. Maybe we feel a little bit taller. We've created that space in our spine between the ribs. Good, let's do one more. Release the arms down. Shoulder rolls, again, back and down. Noticing if we feel a little more space here. And then with the next exhale, let the shoulders just glide down the back. Good, let's scooch ourselves back in that chair a little bit so we're fully on the seat. And we're not completely resting on the back rest. And with our hands on our thighs, just some circles, so right from the hip, just tiny little circles. And then whenever it feels right, change direction. And then again, whenever it feels right, just come back to sitting tall. Pause. So just a little bit more for our neck again. Inhale and exhale. We're going to look over one shoulder. Take a full breath here, inhaling and exhaling. And then with an inhale, we come back to center. With an exhale, we change sides, taking a full breath here. Inhaling back to center. Let's do that again on each side. I love stretching my neck. That's for sure where I hold my tension. So this feels lovely right now. And back to center, changing. Coming back to center. This time we're going to tip the ear. So we tip the ear towards the shoulder, and we want to avoid the shoulder popping up, which I'm totally over exaggerating, but we want to keep the arm down, and maybe to prevent that, we just gently hold on to the side of the chair. You'll get a nice deeper stretch in the side of the neck here. And then coming back up and changing sides. One more time on each side, coming up. And we switch, making sure we're breathing here. We're not clenching our jaw. And then we come up. Last time. And then coming up. So again, making sure we're comfortable in our chair. So maybe resting the back a little bit more. If we want to add that block again underneath our feet, feel free. We're just going to take a moment here to do some breathing exercises as we close out our practice. So hands wherever they're comfortable, you can rest them on your lap. You can cup them on top of each other if you like. If you like, you can bring them to heart center, but we're going to be here for a few breaths, 10 to 15. So maybe just keeping them down is a little more comfortable. Feel free to close your eyes or keep them open the whole time or just slightly closed, entirely up to what you're comfortable with and perhaps even the lighting in your room and your surroundings. And let's notice our feet first. So let's take a moment, whether they're on the floor or on that block, to just maybe lift up the toes and then lift up the heels. Maybe lift up the toes and wiggle them around a little bit or spread them apart. Believe it or not, we hold a lot of tension in our feet, and our feet are connected to everything above it. And then spreading the toes and just letting the whole foot, both feet, come down to the floor, and notice that connection, that grounding sensation that you have. And then take a few breaths here. So remember, we talked about inhaling through the nose, allowing the belly to expand, and then what that does is creates room for the ribs to expand to accommodate the lungs. So that's diaphragmatic breathing. So the diaphragm, just to quickly explain, is kind of like a mushroom cap underneath your rib cage. So what happens is when we inhale, it pushes down so the belly comes out and allows, like I said, for those ribs to expand and the lungs to take in that air. So I just want you to think through that a little bit as we're breathing. Don't make it too technical. But see where you can feel your body moving as you breathe. See if you feel the belly expand. See if you feel the ribs expand, almost like an accordion, going out and back in. And you'll feel a little bit of movement in your chest, maybe just a little bit in your shoulders, but that should be the smallest part of the movement, is your chest and shoulders. Jaw softens. Maybe we even have a small little Mona Lisa smile that prevents us from clenching our teeth. And then just one or two more times thinking about the breath and how and where we feel it. And then just let that go and breathe naturally. And as we breathe, taking a moment to feel some gratitude. Maybe we can think of 3 things that we're grateful for in this moment. Perhaps it's the fact that we were able to do all or part of this class. Maybe it's the fact that we had a good sleep last night. That we have family that loves us. Maybe it's something as simple as eating a delicious apple. Don't overthink it. And if you can't come up with 3 things, that's okay. When we start to practice gratitude, we're able to see even just the small things in our lives that have a positive impact on us. And when we focus more often on gratitude, we start to change our mindset to become more positive. And we start to see more around us, more positive things, more things to be happy about, more things to be grateful for. So think about those things that you are grateful for. And as you think through each one in your mind, say thank you. Thank you, universe, for that delicious apple. Thank you to my family for providing me love and support. Thank you, body, for allowing me to do this practice today. For the breath that flows through you. And with our next 3 breaths, let's inhale. And as we exhale, release the arms so they feel heavy, release the shoulders so they feel heavy, release the legs, Release the jaw if we've started to clench it again. With our next exhale, think more about the face, letting the eyes soften, whether they're open or closed, and the cheekbones soften. Again, the jaw, even the ears, the top of the head. And then with this last exhale here, maybe we exhale through the mouth and even make a sound. Our eyes are closed. Let's just gently float them open. And you can keep your hands on your thighs. You can keep your hands in your lap, or you can bring palms to heart center. And taking a moment to love yourself for what you just did, for loving yourself, for the being that you are. Know that I love each of you, and that my light and love shines each and every one of you. Namaste.